Good afternoon, my name is Bando and this is Brexit Panda, and I do apologise for how long I've been away for. I've been a bit of a hobby slump recently. Lots and lots of posts and lots of really dumb comments online that really just kind of pushed me over the edge, and then just the weather kicking in. So it is, if you're unaware, in the UK at the moment it is swelteringly hot. Which is basically anything above freezing for a people who used to hide from the Romans, waist deep in bogland like some sort of tattooed up, woad-covered kangaroos. But yes, suffice it to say, I'm sat here in little more than my underpants at the moment, sweating like the proverbial pig. It is hot. But today I wanted to come back, and first of all I wanted to say thank you very much. We've hit about 160 odd subscribers at the moment, which is absolutely mad. All the analytics that I'm seeing on the back end of the channel since I started just doing those short videos has shot through the roof. So apparently the guys that watch the proper long videos are not pulling their weight, and it's the randos who are watching the short videos who are keeping us afloat here. So get good. No, I appreciate every single one of you, even if you've only watched one video. But I do appreciate it. All the support has been fantastic. Thank you very much, guys. But today I wanted to talk about... we're still not back on the Heresy. I'm going to wait probably. I have managed to secure myself a copy of the Age of Darkness box set now. Unfortunately, we'll be coming with the second wave, which is due, I believe, mid-August. Which is annoying, but, not a problem. I've got plenty of stuff to keep me occupied. Today, I'd like to talk about some of my favourite non-heresy models that I've painted. And, yeah, these are from all over the place, sort of through the years. Some better than others. Pretty much, I think the earliest one there is very old, but most of these are from when I started playing again during 8th edition, the beginning of 8th edition. And, yeah, some of these are just one-off. Some of them are not the best paint jobs I've ever done. This is not me trying to show off the best models I've ever done. These are just some of my favourite models. And I'll tell you why. And first up, I have... one of the first Eldar models I've built in quite some time. So I do apologise for just how filthy my workspace is. I live like a slob. No, it's my entire life is a work in progress. So this Wraith Knight I have had for quite some time. In fact, I picked this up when it was released in the Ghost Warriors box. And the Ghost Warriors box, for those who don't know, was a large army box which had all the new releases when the Eldar got a slight revamp. They got a load of plastic models, new Wraith Lord and the Wraith Guard. And that was a real big focus of that edition, was all these Wraith troops. And it was at a time, I think, during maybe 6th or 7th edition, when every army was getting one of these absolutely huge centerpiece models. And I just never built it. And back just before the Eldar Codex got released recently, I decided, I quite like the idea of doing an Eldar army for a while, just to paint and collect. I like the idea of the Ulthway. Let's do that. I made this model, and then everybody said that they were going to be doing Ulthway armies, and alas, that happens to me quite regularly. I lost all interest. I am not a meta chaser. I don't like to do an army that is basically the same as everyone else. So yeah, I've gone for a very sort of dynamic pose, or kind of the idea of maybe he's sort of spinning around on the spot to hit someone who's creeping up behind him, and it's painted fairly similarly to how I do my what they call Raven Guard, with scale 75 blacks, but I used a lot of bluey greys in this to do a lot of little scratches all over the armour, and then I let the weathering do most of the depth adding. The bone here looks a little flat, but when you see it in real life, it does have some shade in there. It's just a lot subtler than most sort of heavy metal schemes. The gems and the blade are done with Eidolon purple airbrush paint. It's just a coat of silver and then the Eidolon purple over the top a couple of times to build depth. And that sort of went on everywhere that was going to be sort of spirit stony. And then a little spot colour here of some red. And on the back of the head, sort of on the kind of unarmoured section. So that's all it is. And then the base. It's not exactly the most convenient model to pick up and move around, because as you can see, it's only held on by its foot, which has a pin through it. He says, trying to find the pin, but actually it might not be. It's just some slate, and then tufts and different flocks. And then it is crackle paint. So that's just several coats of the, I believe it's Martian Iron Earth. And then you just PVA glue it down and paint it up. It looks great for sort of a cracked riverbed effect. And then mixing up the different types of static grass is a good way of, you know, because if you go into nature, that they're all very different. It's, you know, everything is not one shade. And then these little bristles, these are great for just doing sort of little clumps of something. You can actually use long brushes to make these. What you do is you can just make it out. You can just glue a little clump together, and then with some super glue, and then you can kind of figure out where you want to put it later. And then obviously blend it into the base with some weathering on the knees and the feet. So that's yeah, my Wraith Lord. I did pick up some other models for this army, such as a Farseer, and well, it was the whole start collecting box before they renewed it, but I never got around to finishing them because, like I said, I lost interest. I might pick it up at some point, but it's not a priority. Next up is a Terminator for a Black Templars army. It's not really an army, it was more of a painting exercise. And I simply wanted to do a unit of Terminators in Black Templar colours to try out the edge highlighting method, because I don't particularly do edge highlighting very often, and it's something I wanted to get better at. So most of the Terminators in this force were made up from the Specimen Heroes kit, which was a great series. It was loads of interestingly posed Terminators with different equipment that were a lot more sort of dynamic than the standard Terminator kits. As you can see here, I've done some freehand checkers on them, some OSL around the eyes. I haven't drilled the barrels out. That's because it's not actually a gun, it's a solid lump of adamantium he just beats people to death with. Here we have the Crux Terminatus on a Terminator model people can't complain about there being a Crux on. And then I used the pad from the old Black Templars upgrade sprue, which is a great pack, or was a great pack. I liked this because it was using a relatively limited palette of colours. You sort of had black, red, bone and gold. That was really sort of it. But I think it gave me a nice, interesting look. And I'm very interested in revisiting this at some point. I'm not particularly interested in going into 40k, so I may do a full Templars Brotherhood army at some point, because I've seen some pictures of Templars done in Mark III armour, like proper Black Templars, and they look fantastic. So yeah, I might do that at some point. I don't know, but again, the same colours would also work for Dark Angels, and you know, I could quite happily do a Heresy Dark Angels army. But if you get a chance to get a hold of some of these Terminators, they're very expensive for what they are. They're about £7 each, or they were. But they are lovely. And they're very different to the normal Terminator kit. I think I did about 5 or 6 of them, including the banner guy, which was stupidly rare, and I only found that out after I started painting him. Next up we have an orc. This is the boss from a pack of knobs, and he is converted from the Blood Bowl character, which the moment I saw it I thought was an absolutely fantastic model. It has got a super dynamic pose, loads of character, the sculpting is fantastic on it, and yeah, I just thought I've got to turn him into a 40k orc. So this was done quite easily. The only parts I changed over was I added a couple of armor plates here and there, I added the jaw, and I added the power claw. I literally just chopped his hand off, stuck the claw on, and then just covered him in gubbins. And that's really all I had to do. Orcs are a fantastic army if you like to paint detail. If you like freehand weathered detail, orcs are fantastic. You can get some really interesting characters in, you know, in the leathers, in the chipped paint, in the rusty metals, and also sort of in the weathering on the skin. I don't know how well you can see that. Let's see if I can get that to focus a bit better. You can just see, you know, loads of little brush strokes on the skin to sort of give it some texture. I love this. I absolutely love this model. Quite disappointed that the knobs kit that I picked up at the same time isn't as dynamic, isn't as high quality. If the orcs, all the 40k orc minis looked like this, I would be a happy man, because the techno kind of barbarian style of orc is great. I love it. The new beast snaggers, just not my cup of tea. But you know, we've built our weapons out of scrap, and you know, I just think it looks fantastic. I really do. And this has got such a lovely face to work on. I don't know how well we can actually get that detail in there. Let's see. But again, you know, it's a relatively limited color palette. You know, it's many of the same colors as the Black Templar, but it's all about the shading, the tones and the shades of those colors, and then using them to make the textures pop. So yeah, lovely model. I was going to show off my Orc Dreadnought. Maybe I'll do that in a different video, but I only wanted to keep, you know, sort of one model per faction, pretty much. So this one is definitely on the other end of the spectrum of painting. It's definitely not as good. And this is a commissar I converted for a Valhallan army. I have a fully metal, original, not recast or anything, Valhallan army, which I have chopped up, changed, hacked bits off of, and these are models that are almost as old as I am. And everyone who's ever played Guard has this commissar model, and they have lots of this commissar model, so I needed to make him stand out and look different. So I gave him a respirator, I gave him the peaked hat he had, which I then sculpted on some furry ear covers for it, and he got a furry collar and a bionic arm. And again, as it's me, I added some checks on there because I am a glutton for punishment, and I've just realised I've stuck that plasma pistol's scope right on the heating coils. Eesh. So yeah, that's just a little different one. That's not as well painted as everything else, but I like it because I think the character, I like the conversion. Dun dun dun! It's a Primaris Marine. Yes, it is. So I picked this up with the what was the name of the box set? Shadow Spear, I think it was, which was the first time we saw these styles of Phobos Marines, and I wanted to do an Iron Hands army. So I don't know if you can tell on this. I used hairspray chipping to, there you go, that you can just start to see on the shoulder pad there. there is an actual physical difference between the layers of paint. So I painted every single model with this brown and orange kind of rusty finish. And then you gave them a coat of hairspray. And then coat of hairspray, and then you paint the black over the top. And it was black and then a coat of Oxford blue, which is this sort of purple colour you can see on them. And then you use a wet brush, or a damp brush, and you can basically, you can peel away or reactivate the hairspray and peel away the paint. I use this a lot in my World War II tanks as well. It's the first time I'd ever used weathering powders, these Forge World weathering powders on the base. It was actually the first time I'd ever painted Iron Hand, and I went for a kind of sickly Borg-esque skin tone. And I quite like these. These are an interesting model. I don't like them as Space Marines, particularly. As Astartes, I don't particularly like them. As generic sci-fi kind of super soldiers in power armor, they look great. But I liked the chipping on this one. I like the leathers, and I like the pose and the skin tone on him. So he's one of my favourites. Yeah. Here we go. So this is my Lord of Contagion I made from the 8th edition starter set box game. I didn't want to do the two-handed axe loadout that everyone does. So I went for this power axe and claw, because I knew I wasn't going to be playing the game, I was just building. And the entire Death Guard army is all built, or all painted with this kind of almost wood grain texture to their armour. And it took a while to do, which is probably why the entire army languished and then eventually got repainted. But it was an interesting sort of return to the hobby. I hadn't played 40k or even painted 40k for quite some time. And I got in a big way. I bought sort of 2 or 3 copies of that box set, which is why I had loads of parts left over. But I kept the texturing on the cloak. Yeah, it's a nice sculpt. It's a nice model. I'm not a fan of what they've done with modern Nurgle, but this model is definitely one of the ones with the least amount of tentacles and offensiveness about it. So it's a good model. The helmet looks great. I love this helmet with the spike in the middle and the weird tiny eye holes. Yeah, no, I really I rate this sculpt. Whoever did this is a good sculptor. Yeah, just the Mark III Power Claw I got sort of off eBay because I hadn't started picking up plastic Heresy kits at that point. And as always, there's checkers on the shoulder pad. I probably should see a mental health professional about that. There's got to be some sort of cause for me wanting to do freehand checkers on every model I make. And the red sort of chaos spikes coming out of everything, like you can see on the cloak there. That was a recurring theme on the army as well, on vehicles and stuff. But keeping with the Death Guard, this is the scheme I've used when I've repainted that, or started to repaint that army. And it is radically different and considerably more like my modern style of painting. And I picked this up from, I think it was the Hatchet Partworks Imperium magazine. And yeah, I went for the whole force got redone in this sort of black and bone scheme with more sort of fleshy, almost like nautical kind of octopusy tentacles on them, which is actually quite fun to paint. There's lots of little detail on this model for doing freehand, lots of bits of paper and stuff. And these all of the loincloths and stuff on these models were done almost like flayed flesh. I love this bit of the model. This sort of ring is great. The sculpting on it's lovely. The imagery is great. Yeah, it was a nice sort of break from what I was doing at the time. Oh, would you look at that? There's some more checkers on there. Wow, didn't see that coming. And the bases for these I actually really enjoy doing as well, because it's quite different. You don't get many bases as bright as yellow. But lots of sponging, lots of chipping, and then using glazes and washes to add some more colour in there. The green is a nice sort of spot colour. So all in all, a lovely model to paint. These Death Guard are lovely models to paint. I'm just not a big fan of all the tentacles. This doesn't strike me as nurgly. I'm also not a big fan of like all the pipes on all the Chaos models having skin over them. Just looks a bit dumb. But no, lovely model. If you're looking for something fun, I can't remember what stupid name, copyrightable name they've got, but the Death Guard Tallymaster is a lovely kit. Back to the other Death Guard army, and I did a series of really weird conversions, which were supposed to be Chaos Spawn, but I didn't realise that Chaos Spawn were on a 40mm base, so this thing is on a massive base, and it's this kind of it's an Iron Strider. It's supposed to be kind of like a heavy servitor, and it's obviously being joy-ridden by a bunch of Nurglings. Which I doubt I'm going to be able to get any of these guys in focus at all. And yeah, just loads of, skulls everywhere, and then just lots of little bits of freehand with the red markings, and yeah, the sort of wood effect pattern. This was just a lovely kit bash to make. I think he's just fallen off. No, he hasn't. He's fine. Lovely kit bash to make. Great fun had doing this. Really wish the Iron Strider legs were a bit more poseable. That was one of my biggest complaints building this kit, was just how boring it's going to be if you had to build a couple of these for your army. I actually stuck a BB, you can just see there, to look like a boil that's about to sort of rupture. So yeah, I did this one, and there was one using a Sentinel, and the other one had a pair of Sentinel legs, but the Plague Drone body, and a great big sort of hook kind of arm, like it's carrying a load of stuff, and it was filled with the bodies from the Plague Cart kit. So yeah, but this one was definitely a favourite. It was the first one I did, and it's by far my favourite. So that's why it's here, because these are some of my favourite models. Now, lastly, this isn't a Warhammer model. Well, it's not even lastly, I do apologise. This is actually a model from the game X-Wing. And I'm going to struggle to get this all in frame, I think. Oh no, I just about do it. So this is on the CR90 Carillion Corvette. For those of you that have obviously seen Star Wars, it's the same class of starship as the Tantive 4. And normally this model, which is the X-Wing models, are always pre-painted, and it comes in the standard Tantive 4 white and red colours. However, in the TV show Star Wars Rebels, there is a Rebel cell which operates several of these, painted in this blue, white and grey colour scheme. So I picked one of these up cheap because he didn't give me all the cards, and I was like, that's fine. I only want the model because I'm going to repaint it. And I found a picture of the concept art for this and used it to make sure I mirrored every single panel that is on the concept art is mirrored in this. Unfortunately, it was quite a while ago. I didn't have an airbrush. and it's not the best work I've done, but I'm very proud of this because it was quite an interesting thing to do, and you don't often see these repainted. That's not to say that X-Wing models don't get repainted. God, there's so much dust on this. Look at this. Oh, this is awful. You do see them get repainted, and some of them are done in a fantastic manner. But this one's mine, and I'm very happy with it. Whee! This last model is not Horus Heresy related, but could have been around during the Heresy because it was painted that long ago. And it is the first model I ever painted. It is the Chaos Warrior that came with the old Citadel paint set, which was available around 1993, which is when I started. I started when I was about 6 years old. And it was about £15. I saved up for a long time because I didn't get much pocket money. Okay, boomer. And yeah, I got the paint set, which came with this model and a Space Marine, which I painted as a Blood Angel, and I obviously have no longer got. But I found this, and it takes this just. I love this model because it reminds me of where I've come from, and I would love to get another one of these. If you have one of these that you wouldn't mind selling to me for a reasonable price, please send me a message because I really want to paint this model again with my current skills. But yeah, this was... you can see obviously that the mark of Nurgle had its way with me early on. But I can still smell what it smelt like sitting in my dad's shed where he did his model railway stuff. He cleared a little corner for me in the back, and I could sit on the world's most uncomfortable stool, and I could paint these models, and I loved it. It was great, and this takes pride of place in my cabinet. It sits right at the top with the Eldar Wraith Knight. So yeah, always remember where you've come from. Don't let it hold you back, but you've always got to remember this is where you start, so you can always judge yourself on where you are today. Guys, I really appreciate everyone who watches these videos. I absolutely love all the interactions you give me, all the messages I get, and I'm really looking forward to what we can get done in the future. I know several of you have made requests for videos. I will be getting to them. I want to try and get back onto the Horus Heresy, detailing the legions, which is definitely on my plan to do, as is a video on posing miniatures. It's just kind of difficult to do in a way that makes sense. Well, guys, thank you very much for your patience with me. My name is Bando. This is Breakfast with Bando. It's now starting to cool off, so I'm going to go put a shirt on. Stay safe. Have a great evening.